Hello everyone, so this is my June reading wrap-up video. I'm going to talk about what I finished reading, my books that I did not finish, and also the books that I added to my collection. I added books earlier this month as well, and I made a video about that, and since that video I have added more books, so I will discuss that here. So one of the books I read this month reread, was The Martian by Andy Weir, and this is my second time. The first time I think was 2018 or 2019, and I really loved it then, and I didn't like it as much this time around. I feel like I didn't like the writing as much. I did think the story and the science was amazing, but I had a hard time with his writing style. So I will reread this book, so I'm going to hold on to it for another rereading. I started Personal History by Katharine Graham, and I just could not finish this book. I read quite a bit of it, but I just got tired of her just talking about her life, her extremely privileged, fancy life. I don't know. I don't know. At some point, I'm sure the story starts about why she is famous and interesting, but I just could not get into it. I just did not care. So I decided to DNF that one. I started reading The Wolf of Wall Street. This is a reread for me. I read it in 2019 and I absolutely loved it. I was so excited. And then I started reading it again last week and I just couldn't stand it. I got through like maybe most of the first couple chapters and I just decided I'm done with this book. I just can't stand this character and his story. So I guess that's a get rid of for me. I finally finished The Art of Happiness. I think this book has taken me a year to read. It's not that it's a bad book. It's actually a really great book. It's just every time I felt sad or I had any problems in the last year, I would always pick this book up and read from it, and it would always help me. I'd always feel better. So I did really appreciate this book, and I'm definitely going to hold on to it and read it again. So I do recommend it. It did take me a long time. There are some parts that kind of drag on a bit. But it was very good. I finished this arc. This is called I'm Mostly Here to Enjoy Myself. I would kind of call this a feminist memoir for a woman who is in her late 40s, and she travels to Paris after COVID to have a good time. And I really enjoyed this book. I'm definitely not this woman, and I definitely don't see myself in this woman at all. But she had a lot of good, interesting things to say about feminism, and I could really relate to that. I don't think I'm going to hold on to this book because I don't see myself rereading it again. I'm just not the type of person that I think is the target audience, even though I am in my 40s and I am a woman. But yeah, so that one I'm going to put in the Unhauled pile. I also started The Great Divide. This is another arc that I got. And I just could not get into this writing style or this story. I mean, it follows a group of characters, and it's about the canal being built. But I just could not get into the style of the writing. The writing was not something that I enjoyed. So I got through about a third before I decided to give up. This is a book that I actually bought this month. That was in my first haul. Mid-month this month. Sorry, I keep repeating this month. But I think I got through like the first couple sentences and I decided this book is not for me. This book is way too right-wing for me and I couldn't do it. So I'm I'm done. This is a book that I reread this month. This is The Rosie Project. And I don't know what happened. I absolutely loved this book the first time I read it, which was 2019. And it was okay this time around, but I didn't have the same feeling about it. I just didn't love it. And I don't know why I was so obsessed with it the first time. I felt so emotional. And this time I just didn't feel those same emotions. So I'm just going to go ahead and let it go. This was my final goodbye read. Another book I finished was Brave New World Revisited. This is a political science analysis by Aldous Huxley of his Brave New World book, and it was very good. I really enjoyed this. Each chapter deals with some kind of political issue, and it took me a while to finish it, even though it's a pretty short book, but I really enjoyed it, and I did need to use the Cliff Notes to get through it. Some of it was very complicated, but this is definitely something I'm going to hold on to because it was very, very interesting about especially in today's current political climate. I also finished Michael Lewis's The Premonition, and I did not like this book at all. It was so weird. It was so strangely written. The only part I really enjoyed was the ending where he really got into COVID and really discussed what went wrong with the COVID response, and that was very interesting. But everything before that, there were so many people, they were doing so many different things. I couldn't really even tell what the story was about. It was just so convoluted. I don't think I want to reread this book. I'm sure there are better books discussing COVID and the COVID response, and I don't know if this book is really helpful to me. Another book I really, really enjoyed was Notes to an Actor. This is a book I got for my birthday last month, and I love this book. This book was absolutely incredible. I could not put this one down. So this one I read, I think I'm going backwards from like the book I finished more recently to books I finished earlier in the month. So this is one I read earlier in the month that I really loved this. This is definitely a reread for me. Let's see. The next one, 7.5 Lessons About the Brain. This is another book I got for my birthday. And honestly, I was very disappointed. It had some helpful information in it, some interesting things I didn't know, but generally it was kind of fluffy and it didn't really say anything that was too scientific or... I'm glad I read it, but I don't think I'm ever going to read this book again. It was just, I want something a little more technical, a little more scientific. So that was a bit of a disappointment. Another book I finished was Spy School. This was a very quick read. This is the graphic novel. And I did read the original Spy School book last year, and I really liked it. I thought it was really great. I liked the writing. I liked the story and the characters. And I think that... it definitely feels like a Harry Potter, but it's more, but it's in a spy school instead of wizard school. So I really enjoyed this. I'm going to highly recommend my kids to read this because this one was really fun as a graphic novel. Another book I finished was The OK Witch. And this one, my kids were getting rid of a bunch of their books this month. And so I kind of grabbed this off their stack because they didn't know anything about it and nobody was that excited. So I grabbed it to read it. And I really liked it. I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna encourage my kids to read this one. I had a good time with it. It's about a girl who discovers she's a witch, and kind of goes back, and it's a pretty cool fantasy story about this girl and her family and this town that she grows up in. Another reread for me is The Queen's Gambit. My son decided he wanted to watch this show, so I got super nostalgic about the book, which I read, I think it was either last year or the year before that. And I loved this book. The only thing I don't love about this book is the writing. The writing is a little weird, but the story is just so incredibly good. It totally makes up for the, I don't know, not perfect writing, but I ate this one up super fast, probably like in one sitting. I just love this book. I love the story and I love the show. So I'm really glad I reread this one. I also reread Catherine Center's The Bodyguard, which I read when it first came out in 2022. And I really like this book. This is probably one of my favorite romantic comedy books. And I also read her new book that just came out, which is called The Rom-Commers. And that one, I think, just came out this month. And I did not love it as much as this book. This book was just kind of magical to me. I like what she does with the characters, where she creates two very likable characters. And they're good people. They're very successful people. And they fall in love, and they're honest, and things are realistic. And the romance feels emotional and real, and I can really relate to it. The problem with the rom-commers, her newest book, is that I felt that some of the decisions that the characters made were unrealistic, and I could not connect to that. And I felt that it was a bit, it was silly. It was a bit foolish. It was a foolish decision that almost destroyed their love. And I just, that kind of ruined it for me. I didn't feel the same way about The Bodyguards. I feel like nobody made any foolish decisions that almost destroyed everything. Everybody was cool-headed and intelligent and did the right thing. So The Bodyguard is probably my favorite book by her. So I did like The Rom-Commers. It was a good read, but it wasn't as perfect as The Bodyguard. Finally, I read Think Like a Rocket Scientist by Ozan Varol, and I didn't like this book enough to reread it. I actually did get his book summary from him. I signed up for his newsletter online, and I got the full summary of this book. This book does have some very valuable information, but again, as a book, I don't think I'm going to go through it again. It was very helpful, especially the last chapter about dealing with difficulties. Let's see. So, failure. It was I had a difficult month dealing with some failure and not getting some of the musical theater roles that I wanted. So this was very helpful to read. But the rest of this book, it was kind of a slog for me. I would rather just read his notes again and just focus on his advice and pass this book along to somebody else. Now, finally, I'm going to do a book haul. So I added Naked Lunch back. And the only reason I hadn't donated it yet. It was still in my garage ready to be donated. And I pulled it out because I read something about it being a really good science fiction novel. And I didn't know it was a science fiction novel. So that's the only reason I pulled it out and decided to give it a shot. I bought some books new from Amazon. I bought The Psychology of Money because it's pretty well rated. I got Good Inside. This was highly recommended by some parents and that I know, and I am about halfway through this book, and I'm really enjoying this book a lot. I think this is one of the best parenting books I've ever read. I also added Snow Crash, and that's because I read Ready Player One, and my husband was like, "Oh, isn't that the exact same story as Snow Crash? You're gonna like that one a lot more." So I decided to get Snow Crash because I do like the idea of Ready Player One, which I read last month, but I did not like the book at all. So I'm hoping that this will give me that same kind of feel. And then these books I added from thrift stores, library sales. I got Dante's Divine Comedy. That was a pretty old book. And then I got Orlando by Virginia Woolf. This is a Virginia Woolf book I don't have. Sorry, my voice is going because I've been sick all week. I got Ian McEwan's Amsterdam, which is the Booker Prize winning book that he wrote. And I've been wanting to actually get my hands on that one. I don't have it. I got The Book of Joy, which I believe is similar to the Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama, just because I enjoyed that one so much. And this one's even better rated. So I've been wanting to read that. I got How to Solve It, a New Aspect of Mathematical Method. This book was really highly rated and looked really interesting to me. And I really do like math. So that looked fun. This is a weird one. Reading in Bed, Personal Essays on the Glories of Reading. I think these are by famous authors, and they wrote an essay about reading and how they feel about it. And let's see. And there's Ruskin, Thoreau, Emerson. Who are some of the other authors? When I was Graham Greene, Nabokov wrote an essay. Marcel Proust wrote an essay, Robert Louis Stevenson. So there are some pretty famous authors that I really like, and so I was looking forward to that. I also got God Is Not Great by Christopher Hitchens. I have never read anything by Christopher Hitchens, but I've acquired quite a bit of a collection by him. I have his Pitch 22 biography. I have his book about atheism. And then, I don't know, this one keeps coming up in books to read, so I decided to grab it. I don't know if I'm going to like it. I got Persuasion by Jane Austen. I don't love this copy. It looks kind of faded out, but I've heard really good things about Persuasion, and I didn't have it, so I think it was really, really cheap, like 50 cents or something. I grabbed Mathematics and Chess. I don't play chess, but I aspire to play chess. So, and this book looked really good, and it was very, very cheap, and just decided to grab it. I got Russian Roulette, How British Spies Thwarted Lenin's Plot for Global Revolution. That sounds really fun for me to read. And then I got another book on stage monologues. This is, I think, the third book on stage monologues that I got this month. These are good to have. I don't know, I guess I've just been hoarding these, and I just want to have a bunch of options for when I audition. So just more monologues. And then finally, this is a cute find, Treasury of Hercule Poirot Mysteries by Agatha Christie. I love Agatha Christie. And this one includes 3 of his books. 3. Mysterious Affair at the Styles, which I don't have, The Murder on Links, and The Grey Cells of Monsieur Poirot, which is a collection of short stories. So I am looking forward to that one. Those are all books that I've wanted to read, so I'm excited to get this nice copy. And in terms of unhaul, I don't have much of an unhaul this month. It's just these ones, the books that I either read and decided I don't want to read again, or books that I picked up and just couldn't get through. So Katharine Graham's Personal History, The Wolf of Wall Street, I'm Mostly Here to Enjoy Myself, The Great Divide, Putin's Playbook, Rosie Project, Michael Lewis, The Premonition, 7.5 Lessons About the Brain, and Think Like a Rocket Scientist are all leaving my collection this month. Well, thank you for watching.